trailblazersimpact.com. So welcome, Caryn Kopp.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So let's start out by telling me, where did you start and how did you arrive at this spot in your career or business?
Well, my background has always been consumer packaged goods brand management and business development. So we're getting clients in the door with those big executive level decision makers because I used to be one of those people. And I understand what it's like to sit in that person's chair with all the pressures that come along with being that decision maker. You have a lot of things that you need to buy, but you don't really want to be sold. And what do you do with all that? I mean, it's really important to know what's available out in the market, but your time is so incredibly limited. So when people contacted me when I was the decision maker, it was really important that they said things that were meant just for me. They weren't saying things that they said to 1,000 other people. I knew that. I didn't like that. So fast forward, I created this business to help my clients who were vendors who wanted to get in the door with companies, usually at the executive level, to help them figure out what that path to the cash was. And for many of them, they just say, hey, can you get me in the door with these people? Because if you get me in the door, I can close a sale most of the time. But the hardest part is getting in the door. So they will outsource that part of business development to my company, Kopp Consulting, and we'll represent them as if we were a member of their team. And in the eyes of the prospect, there's no Kopp Consulting, and we get our clients in the door with these executive level decision makers so they could sell more.
You know, with the focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, are you getting some people that want to get in the door in those areas?
Well, yes, and it's really important because, I mean, this is something that everybody is thinking about right now. And the corporations need consulting, they need training programs. There are a lot of needs around this particular topic within the corporations. And then there are a lot of people who have these niche businesses that focus on this. But how do you bridge that divide? Because the niche businesses have to find their way to the corporate decision makers so that they can compete for those opportunities. And the corporate decision makers have to know they exist. So we've had vendors, consultants, as I said, agencies, training companies who come to us and they ask us for our guidance and advice on how to get these doors open, and in some cases to represent them and get them the meetings.
Interesting. Going back, did you have someone in your life that you would consider your biggest influencer?
Well, there was somebody I reported to in my last job before I started my company. So that goes back 21 years we've been in business this year. So it goes back a long way. But she had such a creative way of solving business problems, very creative. So it's not always a linear path. What I learned from her is that along your journey, along your path, sometimes there's muck in your way. There's muck on the path. So how do you take a figurative broom and sweep the muck off the path? There's lots of different ways to approach things. So when I face like a business development challenge, a particular business problem, I always think, what would she do? What would she do with this? And inevitably something creative comes to me. And I'll give you an example if you want an example of that. Yeah?
Sure.
So yeah. All right. So we had a client who was selling into pharmaceutical companies, and they wanted to sell in at the vice president level with an offering that cost about $300,000. And we were supporting them. We got them those meetings, and the decision maker said, you know, this is great. I love this. But to do business with us, you have to go and speak with purchasing, which is true in a lot of companies. Well, when they got to purchasing would say, we already have a vendor who does this, thanks anyway. And they had muck in their path. They were unable to get that sale closed, even though the decision maker really wanted this. So we sat around, we started talking about that. And I said to her, well, under what circumstances could they buy from you anyway? And she said, well, under no circumstances. Weren't you listening to me? They told me I had to go to purchasing. And I said, yeah, but under what circumstances? Just play with me on this. Under what circumstances could you sell to them anyway without having to go to purchasing? So when she finally, like, she put her figurative bat down because she wanted to beat me over the head with it, she started giving some ideas. And she said, well, the VP has the ability to approve up to 100,000, typically in most companies, but not 300,000. And I said, well, that's really interesting, because if the VP can approve 100,000 and then you don't need to go to purchasing, you just found a path to the close. Is there any way to split your service into 3 sections? Sell the first one first, and then you would be the obvious solution for the second and the third, and you can sell it in pieces that way. They had never thought about it like that. And so when they did that, they repackaged their service that way. They were able to sell to the VP without having to go to purchasing. And it opened up a whole world for them that wouldn't have been open. So we took that muck in the path, and we took our broom and we swept it right off the path. And then they had their path to the cash. So I think I learned to think like this because of the relationship I had with my old boss.
I'm curious about who you were as a little girl. When you mention this, I'm thinking, okay, she could have been really creative as a child, or she could have been kind of strategic and in organizing and listening carefully and repurposing or repackaging things. Who were you as a child?
B. I was B. When I take the assessments that people will sometimes give you, I'm off the charts on logic. People call me Spock, because if you need to get to one place and you can't quite get there, what are all the things that need to happen in order to, either get the muck off the path or be able to go straight there? Like, what do you need to do first, second, third, and fourth? And if there is something that's in your way, what is going to clear it so it doesn't become a permanent roadblock for you? And it's just the way I think. I can't really explain it. I think it's DNA. I'm not the person, like, I have no patience to sit there and draw a picture, create color in the lines. Oh no, don't make me do that. I don't have any patience for any of that. But this, I can sit all day long and think through these kinds of puzzles. It's really interesting to me. I would gladly do it for a cup of coffee, but people are willing to pay me for it. So we made a business out of that.
I'm thinking on the disc profile, you're probably a high C with some D in there.
Yeah, it usually comes up as a high D with some C, but I could see why you would think that. But this just happens to be what we're talking about right now.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you think is your secret to success?
Well, the problem solving thing is a big deal. I think people around me would tell you that I'm pretty even tempered. Like, I don't have tons of highs and tons of lows. I'm pretty even. So when something crazy happens, like what happened last April, and you need to you have that uh-oh moment, and then there's a deep breath. And it's like, okay, how am I going to figure this out? What do I want the outcome to be? How am I going to work backwards to get there? And so I don't really freak out. And I think that makes people around me calm, our clients, our people. So I think maybe that's one of the keys, is just being really even about things, knowing that somehow I will figure it out. Actually, figure it out is our number one core value in our company. Yeah. And the people who work here, who live that too, just more by DNA than anything else, they do very well here.
What do you think has been your most effective strategy, let's say during COVID, for business?
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about pivot. Pivot is not right for everybody. And I think that is a lot of misguided direction out there, because I've seen many business owner friends of mine who were reading articles about the importance of pivot, chose to pivot, and spent a whole lot of time pursuing something that they probably didn't need to do. They really just needed to focus. So that's what we did during that. And we were affected. We lost 60% of our client hours inside of a week and a half. And I had one of those, uh-oh. And then I'm like, okay, deep breath. What am I going to do? So I put all of our door openers whose programs had either reduced or gone off cycle to work for us, getting us in the door with prospects, but focusing, so there's our word focus again, focusing on trigger moments that were going on out there in the market, because as probably anybody who's listening to this podcast knows, not every buyer that was buying before is buying now. So a lot of people are saying to me, how do I find the buyers who are spending? And one answer is to focus on those experiencing trigger moments that are out there. So that's what we did. We found a couple of trigger moments, one of them being targeting banks, which we ended up doing as a particular door opening effort, because with that PPP money, whether you're under 500 employees or over, you've either had a very positive experience with your bank or you had a very negative experience. That puts a lot of business leaders out in the market looking for a new bank. Banks aren't all that great about going out there and talking to new people, but we are. So we represented them and we got them business that they never would have had otherwise if it wasn't for our help. So that's what we did during that period of time. Up until recently, all the clients who either turned their programs off or reduced their programs, they were impacted by COVID too. So they hadn't come back. We closed a bunch of new clients in the process. And now our clients from before are starting to talk about programs for this upcoming year. So hopefully they're getting back on their feet too.
You have the distinctions of being a best-selling author, a nationally recognized speaker, and really an expert in business development. So where did you start in the business? You talked about being an executive and then thinking it'd be a good idea to have a door opener for that. How did you actually get started? And then how did you decide to expand into some of these other areas, like the speaker area and the book area?
Yeah, so this is a funny story. How did we start? It was a great idea that I came up with in the gym. And I met this person who said, she just called out, hey, I have a promotion agency. Does anybody know anybody who wants any part-time work? So I said to her, listen, I think I'm overqualified, because I'd taken like a year off when I had my second child. And I said, I think I'm overqualified, but let's talk. So she was looking for more of an admin kind of person, and I was looking for more of a consulting rate. So I said to her, listen, here's something I could do that you might really value for a consulting rate. How would it be if I got you in the door with your prospects? And she looked at me and she said, you could do that? You could get those doors open for me? And I said, yeah, I can do that. She said, when can you start? So what happened was it just kind of flew out of my mouth. It's something that's easy for me and not easy for a lot of people. And it will actually help people not only grow their business, but for some people, it helps them keep their businesses because they have to keep their pipelines full. Otherwise, their business is in jeopardy. So we started out that way. And in the beginning, it was just me getting my clients in the door with their prospects. It was by far my favorite thing to do. I don't get to do that anymore because I have to run the company now. But when we had more clients than I had time available, I had to bring on more people. So at that point, there's like this fork in the road because I had to make a decision. Do I hire a low-level person and then I have to train them and manage them and coach them and then fire them if it doesn't work out and then I have to do it all again? Or do I hire a very senior level business developer like I was, somebody who had previously been a corporate decision maker too, like my background, and that person, I could just hand that person a project and that person would know what to do. Well, in the early years, I was working when my son was in nursery school, so I didn't have any more time and I was already supporting clients. I chose to invest in the person who was senior, who had been a corporate decision maker too, and I gave that person a project, and it worked so well because I didn't really need to supervise that person. The person knew what to do, and that became our business model. So now we only hire senior level business developers They have a minimum of 10 years experience in business development, but many have more like 15 or 20 years in business development. And many have been corporate decision makers as well. And that's the caliber of the person who represents our clients out in the market, getting them in with C-suite, SVP, VP, director level prospects. So people come to us usually when they're trying to sell big engagements. They need to get the big doors open. And there was one other part of your question. Oh, the speaking. How did that happen? Okay, so that's a very funny story. This is how it happened. One of my clients was part of this networking group. It might have even been a Chamber of Commerce way back when. And he said, can you come and tell everybody all your secrets about door opening? I said, okay, I'll tell everybody my secrets. But maybe I need a business card. I didn't even have a business card at that point. I didn't have a website. I mean, look, my business started 21 years ago. So it was a long time ago. And I didn't need one for only a couple of clients. So I said, well, I think maybe I need a business card. So I put together a business card. I put together a website. And then I just stood there and I just told them all of our secrets about how we get in the door with clients. And that program is now called the 5 Planks of Door Opening Success. And I have a lot of great visuals on it. And so we could train our clients on how to get the doors open, or we can get the doors open for them. But I think one of the most important things about like all the speaking that I've done with huge audiences and sometimes boardroom audiences, people really want to know this, because there are a lot of blind spots when it comes to getting the door open. And if you miss one of the steps and you get trapped in the blind spot, you can spend a lot of time and you're not going to get any results. And it could be because of something that's easily fixable, as long as you know what it is. And that's why I like to speak about this, so that people can get this right the first time. During the pandemic, everything changed. How people get in the door changed. There are many salespeople out there, or people who are not salespeople, but who are tasked with selling, who are like fish out of water. They can't wait till things go back to normal when people are meeting in person. It's not going to happen anytime soon. And even once it starts happening, people now know that they can do this virtually. And the people who are comfortable doing it virtually and are successful doing it virtually are going to eat the lunch of people who can't. So people have to make this change. One of the things that I'm doing now is the program I'm doing is called Building and Rebuilding Your Sales Pipeline in a Virtual World. And the program changes. What I was talking about right when the pandemic hit is no longer what people are facing. Like when the pandemic first hit, people were saying, is it really the right time to develop business? Now people know it's the right time to develop business. Now they need to find buyers who are spending. And that's what I'm focusing on. I take all the tips and things that are working from our door openers, because I collect them, and then I share them with the people in my audience. And I don't mind telling all of our secrets, because people will either hire us if they need us, or they need to know what we know, and that's fine too.
So what would you say is the secret sauce for getting the right doors open, especially during COVID?
Well, the sauce isn't different. Like the steps, the 5 planks of door opening success are the same. What's different is how you go about each step is a little different, especially execution. So here are the 5 planks. The first plank is the right target. The second plank is the right message. And I'm not talking about marketing message. I'm talking about sales message, different ballgame. The third plank is the right answers for objections, not just any answers, the right ones. The fourth plank is the right door opener. Not every person whose job it is to get the door open is the right door opener. And I think people really know what I'm talking about. The sellers, as well as the business leaders, know what I'm talking about when I say that. You know if you have the right person doing this job or the wrong person. Now, what the person who might have been right before the pandemic may not be right now. And everybody needs to face up to that. Doesn't mean that person needs to be fired, but that person needs some outside help with door opening, and we can help with that. And then the fifth plank is the right execution. Is it a phone call? Is it an email? What do you say in your phone call? What do you say in the first one? What do you say in the third one? What do you say in the fifth one? You can't say the same thing every time. You must do your research. It must be personalized outreach. People will invest in email marketing, and I'm not saying email marketing is bad, but email marketing alone doesn't get the job done of getting these big relationships open. I don't know about you, Nan. I get probably 250, 300 emails a day. I can't read them all. Not even people from my own team, not even from people I've hired to do work. I cannot read them all. So if you're looking to reach out to somebody who doesn't know you, but who should, email alone won't do it. Phone alone won't do it. It's the combination of phone and email. And then you may send them a LinkedIn, but don't make the mistake of pretending you're better friends than you are. This is just a connection, doesn't mean that you're going to the prom together, right? You got to build the relationship over time. And that is what works. Very few people have the patience to do that, or the strategy to pick the right prospects first. That goes back to that trigger moment. Not every prospect is experiencing a trigger moment. Which ones are? And then spend your time there and say something that's meant to help them understand why that trigger moment is affecting them and why it's so important to meet about it, even though they may already have another vendor or another solution in place. And then be prepared to answer their objections. So you see, it's the 5 planks working together. Any one plank that's missing, and you just lost your efficiency with door opening. You'll be lucky if you get the doors open.
So would that also be considered your moment of yes, sales messaging process?
That's plank 2. Plank 2 is the right sales message. And we have trademarked the moment of yes, because it's all about what are the factors that are going on for this individual that you want to get in to see that will create this moment of yes. What's happening in this person's work life, home life? What are the different factors that, even though they may have a vendor and they might be somewhat satisfied with that vendor, why should they see you anyway? Most people don't bother to think about having the ability to articulate that in a way that it lands with the person that they're talking to. Very few people spend time on sales messaging. They might throw a script together, but hey, life doesn't happen according to a script, right? It's a springboard, and you need to know where to take the path of dialogue when you reach someone on the phone versus the 6 sentences you say when you leave a voicemail. And then, of course, you have to be able to reach that person. You have to know the person's phone number, the right email address, there are all those pieces to it. But the moment of yes is our trademark process that every door opener program starts with, so that we know we're targeting the right people and we're saying the exact right things.
You have several consulting seminars. Is there a way for anyone and everyone to see those on your website or access them?
We have a few of them on our website. Our website is koppconsultingusa.com, K-O-P-P consultingusa.com. And there is a page for webinars, and we have a few of them there. I think the 5 planks of door opening success during the pandemic is there. Building and rebuilding, I think, is there. And I think there's a sales messaging one there as well that people can access. And then I've been writing for years on narrow subject areas of challenge within sales, and there's all sorts of information on the blog as well. I have lots of, not just tips, but exercises and things like that that people can access. I talk about them in the programs, and I'm happy to help people master this because they need to right now.
You've won many awards. Is there a particular award that you're really excited about?
Well, I have to say the one that there's a couple, but I guess the one that I'm really excited about most recently is the Enterprising Women Top 20 of 20. So Enterprising Women is a magazine. It's for women business leaders. And I write for this magazine. I'm on their advisory board. And this past year, they celebrated their 20th anniversary, and they picked one honoree from each year that they were in business and celebrated that person. And I was one of those 20. And I could tell you from meeting these women over the course of the years, and in order to be an honoree, you have to give back to women business owners in your community in a pretty big way. In addition to running a successful business, you have to do that. And so the people I've met throughout the years are just cream of the crop. And the fact that I was included in one of 20, I was very proud of that.
You very much should be. I have a lot of appreciation for enterprising women. I have podcasted Monica Smiley. I have met her, and she does some pretty outstanding things.
She does.
What do you feel are the biggest challenges for leaders in business today?
Well, certainly business development, certainly. Many business leaders are leaders of their businesses because they're excellent at what they do. It's not necessarily that they're excellent at the business development of what they do. Even if they had figured it out before, it's likely changed, as I was saying. Now the path is different. The sales managers, if they have one, may not be a good diagnostician. How do you figure out where the money just went? That's a different skill set than managing what you were previously doing in sales. This is a problem that needs to be addressed at the top. It's a very big challenge. And the people who are suffering from this challenge don't really know what to do. If you're in that situation and you're listening to this podcast, reach out to me and I will direct you as to where to go to get help, or give you tools or resources, or let you know if perhaps you need our help.
Do you have any tips you can provide to other women trailblazers?
Don't think of yourself as a woman. You're a business leader. I know that there are many people who feel that they don't get the same due as the men, and that may be in certain industries and certain instances. I know a lot of people who feel that way. I personally have not felt that way, but I also don't think of myself as a female business leader. I'm a business leader. I have a job to do. I have a company to run. I have people who depend on me for work, for their homes and their families. For me, it doesn't get in the way. That would be my advice. Don't let it get in the way. You may feel that way, but figure out a way to get the muck out of your path so that it's not in your way. Under what circumstances would it not be a challenge for you? Under what circumstances wouldn't it hold you back? And then figure out a way to figuratively sweep the muck off your path and just keep going.
Well, that's some very good advice. Thank you so much for participating, Caryn. And I'm sure everybody will start going to that website and looking to see what you have.
Thank you so much. You're so easy to talk to. I could talk to you for hours.
Thank you.